everyone on our side that sees the hypocrisy in what they do, the fact that that they talk about democracy, they tried to kick, they disenfranchised Iowa and New Hampshire early on in the process. They tried to kick President Trump off the ballot. They pushed RFK away. They undermined debates early on with RFK. I get it. I 100% agree with you. But my question is, when you look at who can be swayed in this election, who are those people do you think that argument resonates with anybody that matters? Because clearly the left doesn't care. They're like, yep, we kicked him out. We got,
Black Lives Matter came out with a pretty damning statement.
Saying?
That they said that this isn't right, that they should do like a mini primary. They came out saying that this was a threat to democracy, what Kamala Harris, what they've done. They released a very scathing statement over this bait and switch.
And you think that's gonna that sways people? Maybe.
I think the people who follow Black Lives Matter, they're probably thinking, "Hey, wait a minute, we're being lied to, we're being tricked here." So, yeah, if they were so,
but I think you're right. If we were switching this out for Gavin Newsom, I'd see them getting pissed. But at the end of the day, I think most of the people who follow Black Lives Matter are like, "Hey, we ended up with a black woman, not bad, huh?"
I don't know. I don't think a lot of people particularly like her because of what she did I think she has a big problem within the Black community personally. I mean, putting over 1,000 people in jail for smoking marijuana. And then when asked if she smoked marijuana, she laughed. I don't think that's going to bode well for her. I think, her stance on gun control, some of these big issues, community safety, she failed the people of California. I think this is not a walk in the park, maybe for some of the, upper class, but I don't think that this is a done deal with the Black community.
No, and to your point, Sean, obviously when I have to go on some of the legacy media, left-wing media outlets, it's a great defense response when they come back with the threat to democracy. But this election is going to be decided on the same things it was going to be decided on before the debate, when Joe Biden was at the top of the ticket. People can't afford gas and groceries. There's 12 million people here in our country illegally. The world is at war, and the Democrat Party is tearing itself apart because they're anti-Israel and pro-terrorist. And so when we keep pushing it back, and there was a great memo, I think, yesterday from Tony Fabrizio, the pollster for Donald Trump, saying, look, she's going to have her honeymoon. She's probably going to take the lead in the next 2 or 3 weeks in some of the national polls. But once things settle down, once she's introduced to the American people, and once they realize she's not going to make things more affordable, it's not like she's going to say, drill, baby, drill, and we're going to get cheap gas again. It's going to go back to right where it was before they switched her out and put her in.
Yeah, real quick, before we talk, since you brought up the cost of things, one of the things that I have told people about, and I've put my money where my mouth is. I know a lot of people are getting hit up all over the place to invest in gold and silver and precious metals. I did the same thing. I mean, you see it everywhere. There's digital ads, radio. People are talking about the effect of higher inflation rates, the cost of doing business now because of Biden. I invested in precious metals. I did it through my friends at Bishop Gold Group. You can too. If you go to bishopgoldgroup.com/Sean, you get a free gift when you go do that. But here's the thing. Like I said, everybody's hitting you up for the same thing. This is where you should put your money. This is what should happen. I had to think about, if I want to do that, some people have a 401k or an IRA. I wanted to expand my portfolio. And I knew that the folks at Bishop Gold Group were the folks that I could trust. They were the ones who I felt had integrity and experience. And I gave them a call. I went to bishopgoldgroup.com/Sean, set up a call with them. And they explained to me the different strategies, the different allocations, how I could liquidate gold, whether I could hold it or they could hold it. What do I want to do in 10 or 20 years when I want to get rid of it? They walked me through the entire process and set up an individualized strategy for me. So whether you want to expand your investment opportunities, whether you've got an IRA or an old 401k that you want to roll over and you want to get in on this, trust the people that I do. I literally put my money where my mouth is. When I wanted to do this, I called the folks at Bishop Gold Group, bishopgoldgroup.com/Sean. You can do what I did to start your journey through precious metals. All right, Mark, this is the thing though. You talked about the attack, and this is where I want to get into the messaging on Kamala Harris. It seems like it's all over the board right now. Some people are talking about her tough on crime stances, as Ashley kind of referred to, how that might have disenfranchised her with the Black community because she, incarcerated a lot of people back during her day as prosecutor. Some people really want to prosecute the case on her record as VP. Ashley, what do you think is the most, I mean, I think we need something from the top down, from the Trump campaign that said, these are the messages that we are going to go against her on. But it needs to come sooner rather than later, because I've seen folks from all spectrum, the full spectrum on the right, and everybody's got their own take on what to do with how to go after her.
So I've said this all along. It doesn't matter if it's Biden or Harris or anybody, Gavin Newsom, they all represent the same exact thing. And there are four main issues that I see that people are going to vote on. The first being the economy, something Marc talks a lot about. The second is going to be the border. She said, do not come. And then caravans, like it was almost like that was the call to action for the caravans as they made their way millions across our border. Third is going to be public safety. People are just completely in New York City. That's what's making all of these blue states, swing states or target states now because of the public safety crisis. And then the last thing is going to be energy. She is an extremist when it comes to Green New Deal, policy. So I think those four issues are going to be the top issues. Now, of course, there's some spinoff things. For example, Israel will be a big issue with the uncommitted voters in Minnesota and Michigan. But in terms of effective messaging, those are the four policy issues that affect people on a daily basis. And I think economy, Marc Lotter probably is shocked that I'm saying this right now because I'm a big person on border, but economy is the number one issue. People are deciding whether they have enough money to heat or eat. A lot of people can't even afford a vacation. And she was this deciding vote, if you remember, on the American Rescue Act or whatever it was called. That was the first $5 trillion bill that started the speed up of all of the inflation that's happening today.
Yeah, and I agree completely with what Ashley's saying. And then what I typically try to do as well is add a little bit of a Kamala word salad onto the end of it, because I do think, she's got the unique horrible policies that we can attach to her that she has supported, but she's also just not competent to be our commander in chief and the president, leader of the free world. And so typically, even though I talk about, Green New Deal or the inflation, the border, whatever, and they go, and remember, the woman who wants to be the commander in chief explained the Ukraine-Russia war to us as Ukraine is a small country next to Russia, which is a big one.
All right. So here's the thing I would argue. A lot of people think about so many of the things that Donald Trump promised during his campaign in 2016. To me, what makes the difference, what I believe when I make the case for Donald Trump, is I go, listen, he said all these things, and then guess what? He actually did them. And so many politicians come forward to the American people during a campaign season, promise them the moon, and then spend their reelection telling you why they couldn't get things done, but they need 4 more years. Donald Trump made it so much easier for us because we could say, he told you he was going to do something. He executed on it. He got it done. And our country is better. Our communities are safer. Our prosperity is higher. And I think that's what makes him unique. And the reason I bring that up is that I think one of the things with Kamala is that she can say anything she wants. Where's the balance, Ashley, between us talking about her policies and then talking about her sort of record/personal, right? You know what I'm saying? Like with Trump, the personal is, yes, he supported all these things, but then he personally did them. He renegotiated NAFTA. He got us out of the Iran agreement. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. All of these things that people said you can't do, Donald Trump said, I'm going to do it, and he executed. I think the record and the personal actually matter. People who don't like Donald Trump, by and large, it's not the policies that get him, it's the personality. The reason I bring that up is how much actually should we focus on the personality of Kamala Harris versus the policy?
Well, I think it kind of goes hand in hand. So, for example, on the border crisis, she was one of the people that perpetuated the stories about the Border Patrol agents whipping the illegal aliens coming across the border, which was later proven to be false. She likened it to slavery, which was completely disgusting. And it was a lie. And she never apologized. And she hasn't done anything as the border czar, as we pointed out her title was. Go back to the Second Amendment. Go back to her role as California Attorney General. She did not address a backlog of cases involving dangerous individuals who possessed firearms, and she got completely annihilated for that in California. A lot of the local LA Times were writing stories about it because it was such a huge public safety issue. But then she says she's going to write an executive order, if elected, to take away everyone's guns. So that she has a history. She has policies where she said she's going to do something and then she does something opposite. You could look at her record as a U.S. senator. She's one of the most extreme, far left, politically left-leaning members when she was in the Senate. She had the lowest success rate in getting bills out of her committee. She had extreme partisanship. She had very limited legislative accomplishments. She could not effectively lead and unite the country, period.
You know, Mark, the thing that I have found fascinating, I've been warning of this when I said to people weeks ago, if he drops out, Kamala will come in and then the cavalry will come to her rescue. And the cavalry is big tech, academia, government institutions, corporate America, and obviously the media. And the media, and this gets back to the record and to the policies, right? So a lot of Republicans have pointed out kind of what Ashley was saying, the border, and here's her record. Axios came to her rescue and said, no. She was never the border czar. That's a right-wing Republican talking point. She was only supposed to be finding the root causes. Then CNN comes after Axios and says, hey, here's all the times that Axios used the term border czar in their reporting, right? And it's now been pointed out by a lot of folks that Axios was the one that called her the border czar. So you can say that it's, but the broader point that I want to get at is the media doesn't care. They are running to her defense to prop her up and to say, I don't care. We need to rescue this person. Joe Biden did the right thing. He stepped aside. We're back. We're on the team. We got the water. We're carrying it for you, Kamala. Don't worry. And we will scrub everything for you. You will be the perfect person now.
No, you're absolutely right. And the challenge for the Trump campaign is that we've got, 100 and some days until the election. And so you're not just going to be running against Kamala Harris and whoever she picks as her vice president. You're going to have the entire legacy media operation out there running defense for her, calling her historic. I mean, we saw a little bit of that during the 2016 campaign with Hillary when it was the opportunity to have the first female president. But people hated Hillary so much they couldn't carry enough water to get her across the finish line. But Lord knows they tried. I don't think there's nearly as strong of negatives. Kamala's negatives are huge. I mean, she's the most unpopular vice president in history since they started keeping track of that stat. But people don't have this visceral reaction to her like they did Hillary. So I would say, I mean, the pressure is on the Trump campaign to dump $100 million or something now, start defining her, get those word salads, get those records, get her quotes about taking away gun buyback programs and the Green New Deal and Medicare for all and illegal immigrants should get free health care. All of that stuff needs to come back, and it needs to come back quickly before the media and Kamala get to define her own biography.
Yeah, actually, as unpopular as she may be with certain groups, the media loves her. I mean, Politico might as well just be an extension of her campaign. The one of the authors of Playbook is literally on her staff. I mean, they will cover up everything. They glamorize. I mean, they literally wrote a story the other day about how she was eating pizza with anchovies as she was fielding calls and, rescuing puppies. It was amazing to watch this happen. But make no mistake about it, as unpopular as she may be with some segments of the population, the media loves her.
Oh, of course they do. But they didn't love her. Remember when she first came in as vice president, there were all the stories and the leaks that they were running on how she was like a terrible boss, that she yelled at her staff, that they had to do mock dinners because she didn't know how to act and she didn't know how to win people over, and public speaking courses and all these different things because she was so terrible. And then again, to your point with the flip of a switch, the machine is turned on for her because she's going to come in and save the day, even though she's actually never won or saved anything in her history of being a political person. She literally embodies failing up in Washington. So there's that.
Mark, it's funny. There's a a memo out from Jen O'Malley Dillon, who is the campaign chair for now the Harris campaign. Her boss was Biden up until like 72 hours ago. And she writes in this memo, the VP is well positioned to expand support from 2020, drawing the support of voters who have moved towards their Democrats since the 2020 election. In many cases, these voters did not vote for the Biden-Harris ticket, but came out in support of Democrats in 2022 as Donald Trump's Republican Party grew more and more extreme. There are also more persuadable voters who the campaign intends to target. About 7% of voters remain undecided in this race, and these voters are disproportionately Black, Latino, and under 30. They are more likely to have supported the Biden-Harris ticket in 2020. So this is who they're going after, right? They're basically saying, this is our coalition, and this is who we believe gets us over the top. And remember, it doesn't take that much. 10,000 votes here, 10,000 votes there in these battleground states, and that's all the difference. And when you move the number of people who were concerned about Joe Biden's age, that's a lot of people, and you've got a decent audience to cull from.
So was that memo written on Disney letterhead? Because clearly she's in fantasy land. I mean, I saw a segment on CNN this morning where they actually had a new poll post the announcement where it shows that Kamala Harris is still doing 11% worse than Joe Biden did in 2020 with young voters. And that's because young voters can't afford to buy their first house. They can't afford rent. They can't afford gas and groceries. All of those things don't change. And so I was looking at this the other night. The final Real Clear Politics average of 2020 had Joe Biden winning by 7.5 points. The final national vote tally was 4.5 points. It came down to 43,000 votes in 3 states. Unless Kamala Harris is leading by about 4 to 5%, she's losing this election, because I think enough groups, whether it's 3 or 4% of the Black community, if it's 5, 8, 10% of the Latino community, if it is 10, 11% of the young vote, all switch, that's more than the 43,000 votes in 3 states that Donald Trump needs to win.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.